What I have in front of me right here is what I consider to be an optimal setup if you're going to carry light and you're going to go out and do some bank fishing, some river fishing, some pond fishing, anywhere in the wintertime where you're not going to be able to go real deep from like a bass boat or a kayak or something like that. These would work in those scenarios, but I've been using them to put into a backpack and to carry around with me and catch some major fish with these exact lures right in here. Now, I've caught one of my personal best bass, 12.5-pound hybrid on one of these lures in here, and stick around to the end and I'm going to show you which one, and I'm also going to post the video of that exact catch, and you guys are going to be stoked about it because I was stoked about it. So let's go through this. It's pretty basic setup. Here's a little bit of some things I use in the spring and the summer as well, but then some things that I specifically use in the winter. So let's start first with just your basic swim jig here. Now, this is just a little paddle tail. So this is a 3.75 inch. You can even go a little bit smaller. This is just a rage tail right here. It's white on the top and then this sort of clear color on the bottom. And I've got it hooked up to this 1/2 ounce jig head. And I've got some extra jig heads in here. So I got one rigged up and then I've got some extra ones just like this right here hanging around. And I would even go smaller than that really. These are just the ones that I decided to take with me last time I went out. So paddle tail. Bring it in slow, and with these heavy heads, you can really feel them sort of like dunk along the bottom if you're trying to skip them or something like that. So first thing I bring is just a paddle tail. The next thing I use that I don't use often, but it just sort of depends on if these other things aren't working and I want to give it a shot, is just a bladed jig right here. Now this is a slobber knocker in some green color, and I do put a rage tail at the end of it. I think this is a 4-inch rage tail, maybe 4 1/4. And again, I just slow roll it enough to where this gets to going, or I'll even let it sink, jerk it up to where this gets to going, and then let it fall. Jerk it up, let it fall. So it just depends on the day. And I got a couple other little tails right here. This is for like if you got like a 1/4 ounce football jig head or something like that. And this just sort of beefs it up a little bit. Drag it slow along the bottom. Now, on that note, this is a bigger version of that. This I think is a 3/8 ounce, and it does have a rattle at the bottom and a pretty big hook. And it's got like a crawl on the end of it, just in a green color. Again, drag it along the bottom real slow, or pop it up, let it fall at a slower rate than I would in the summer or the springtime. So those are all pretty standard. Now, winter specific, I like to use these lipless crankbaits, and you can hear them, they shake, but more so they sort of work almost like a bladed bait, like a blade bait, when you pull them up, because you're going to pull them up, you're going to jerk it, and it's going to rattle like this and sort of flutter, and then you let it fall. Pull it up, let it flutter, and then let it fall. This is the, I think this is the Berkley War Pig right here. I had a few more of these in here in a crawl color and a chartreuse color, but lost them to the river this last weekend. So I use those. And then of course, if things aren't going my way with some of these other lures that I use specifically in cold weather, I always can pull out the Sexy Shad right here, KVD crankbait, and just slow roll it. You can even work these sort of like a jerk bait as well. And speaking of jerk baits, right here, this is my next one that I'm going to use, is the jerk bait right here. And in the colder weather, a lot of times fish are more sluggish, so you're going to jerk it and then sort of let it pause, jerk it, let it pause, and a lot of times they'll hit it even on that dead stick action there. And then I got another little jerk bait here. And then a swim bait as well, like a swim bait or a glide bait. These are from Trucend, these ones right here are, and I've got plenty of fish on these. But again, rolling it slow enough just to get the motion. All right, now we're gonna get into some things where I catch the most fish on. I'm going to use like a Ned rig head here, and so you can see I've got a couple Ned rigs right here with the extra wide gap, and all I'm going to do is put those like on a Senko or something like that, or I get these little pre-made little jigs. Now these things are really light, so I can use this with like a light rod even. That, and then also these Nico Helgramites. Now I've got this hooked up to like a finesse head right here with the extra wide gap, so it sort of functions like a Texas rig, or you can almost Ned rig fish this thing like that. And I also use the Nico leeches as well. And any kind of worm or leech or anything I'm going to put on, I'm going to use something like this, these finesse jig heads. Now these are a 3/16. I also got them in a 1/16, so lightweight there. So I'm going to use those, keep those in there with some soft plastics. Now the reason that I have these in here, these split shots, is because I will actually make like a little ghetto drop shot to where I will take just a regular hook, say like on this Nico leech right here, I'll take a regular hook, put it through its head, and then about 18 inches up or a foot up, put this little split shot, and it'll work just like a drop shot. And I catch fish like that all the time. So for that reason, I do have about 5 or 6 just regular hooks in here. I'm not sure what size these are, but just a couple hooks just like that. And I also keep some split rings. Well, I don't think these things are actually called split rings, but they're like little snap rings. And the reason I do that is sometimes if it's real cold, I don't like to be tying a lot, so I can snap them on and off. But the real reason that I have that is this next thing, and these are sort of like my secret weapon this winter, are these blade baits. So the blade baits right here have a hole in the back of them, and some of the ones that I order, I get the ones from TrueSend all the time, and the small ones here, the 10 grams, don't come with a snap ring here, so that's why I got those. And I've caught, for these being small, I've caught some pretty major size fish on here. As a matter of fact, I got a 4.5 pound hybrid on a lure this big. And I mean, you can see how big it is in the palm of my hand, and it pulled it all the way in. So I use those. I typically don't go smaller than like these here, the 10 gram ones. I do have a couple that are smaller just because I've got some like multi-packs, and I've actually caught fish. This is a 7 gram, and this thing is tiny. I've actually caught like 2-pound bass on this thing, really. So even with the small hooks, they still sit in there real well. And then I don't want to say it's my secret weapon, but this is the kind of blade bait that I've caught my personal best monster fish on. And again, I'm going to leave a link to that at the end of this video, so make sure you check that out. I'll put it in the description as well. 12.5 pound hybrid bass on the blade bait that's this big, 12.5 grams, so almost a ½ ounce. But you can throw this thing on a bait caster, on a spinning reel, or whatever, and the action on this is great. So I typically put the split ring right here towards the back because I'm doing a slow retrieve. The faster you retrieve, the more you want to move it towards the head. So basically what these things will do is they'll fall to the bottom, and you just jerk it up and it vibrates and you let it fall. Now, I've been through a couple packs of these. I've lost a ton, and that's just because I'm fishing from the bottom, and it does have that double treble hook there. So I really recommend these. These are probably my favorite. I've got one tied on all the time. The TrueSend one, if you go with those, come in a multi-pack. I typically use some silver colors or like the gold color. The white color is good too, because I think the fish are mainly just attracted to the action of it. But I definitely recommend these right here. So that's my setup. Like I said, I can take this, throw it in a backpack. Heck, you could even put this in like a grocery store bag and get a pole and then walk through the woods to wherever you're going. And this is gonna be just fine. Everything in here is gonna be something in your arsenal that you can catch fish with, not only all year round, but especially right now in the winter. So I recommend checking these things out. Like I said, there's an Amazon link down below if you want to check some of these out. I'm gonna leave a link for that big bass that I caught on these little blade baits here. And let me know what you think. What are your go-tos? What do you like to use in the colder months? And have you ever tried any of these? And have you had any luck with them? So let me know. Don't forget to sub to the channel. Thanks for checking it out. And I hope you all have a good one. Go out there, have fun, and be safe.